Welcome, everybody, to the Slade Ham Experiment. I am your host, Slade Ham. Midnight spaceship all aglow. A little green tonight. I don't know why I'm feeling so foresty. Cheers, as always. I drink to you. I'm back from San Antonio. Hello to my San Antonio friends. A great many of you came out to the shows. Bryce, it was good to see you. Old school Houston comedian Anthony Andrew came out. My friends who manage the club that I haven't played since it was bought by the Improvs. It was good to see English Jeff. Lots of folks. And then my good friend RJ, who owns a place called Arctic Ape in San Antonio. And if you find yourself out there and you have a bit of a sweet tooth, I would encourage you to go. It's a cool ice cream. It's an ice cream parlor, right? Is that the right word? All the different types of ways to eat ice cream and yogurt and sorbet and all of that stuff. You have options, and then there's like 2,000 toppings. And I bring it up to say it was really cool to see something that he's been asking me to come out for ages. We're old friends, and I've never made it out. Every time I've been to San Antonio, I finally make it out, and I'm mad at myself for not making it out sooner. RJ also runs a lot of the marketing for cigars for Warriors, which might be, it's not how we met. I think he saw me bury Pauly Shore a decade ago. But anyway, the good dude, good shop. I appreciate the hospitality. San Antonio, you were fun. I got to run the show in its entirety for the first time. Jerry Wayne Longmire was there with me, my good buddy. We had a good time. So enough about that. If you are watching this, tickets are now on sale. August 19th, my special tapes at Match, the Midtown Arts and Theater Center here in Houston. Tickets available, sladeham.com. If you're one of the lucky people, lucky for me, I guess, who was part of my Kickstarter campaign, then you know that you already have access to those tickets. You've had them for a couple of days. That's probably why the pit, the first 4 rows, are sold out. So get your tickets, hurry up. They're not expensive. I made it simple. One show. If it sells out, we're doing 2 shows. We're doing 2 shows. And then everybody in the comments and everything else, I'm getting to the show, part of the show. I got 2 things I want to talk about. But hi, Jason Black. If you request a shout out in the comments, I'll probably give you one. So the internet is a Twitter about a comedian named Matt Rife. You might have heard of him because you turned your computer on. There's a couple of people, there's different groups of people that have feelings about Matt Rife. I was not a person who had a feeling about him at all until recently, and now I have to have an opinion. So I've formulated one, mainly to combat the opinions of a lot of you. If you don't know who Matt Rife is, let me turn over the rock for you that you've been under. He's a comedian. I think he's been doing it like 8 to 10 years. He might have a decade under him. He was on Wild 'N Out with Nick Cannon for a while. Started when he was like 15, maybe. I think my good friend, rest in peace, Ralphie May, might have given him some stage time early on in his career. Every comic I know, I don't know Matt, every comic I know that's worked with the kid has said he's fantastic. They've had nothing but positive stuff to say about him. So when I watch the internet do what the internet does, which is simultaneously make you a king and then rip your insides out and smear you like so many dead bugs across the windshield, some of my comic friends, here are the 2 camps, right? I got the soccer moms, the people I went to school with, the people I graduated with, parents with kids, people I know, regular civilians, who think Matt Rife is the second coming because he's hilarious, because he does this crowd work, and it's fun. It's funny. He's great. He's talented at it, to be perfectly honest. It's riffing. You can ask certain questions of an audience and elicit certain responses. It's a skill. You can't just blindly do it. It's kind of like cold reading a room. It's actually takes some effort. So what he is doing is good, and you're right for thinking that he's talented at it. And then there's a bunch of comedians who will tell you that this is hacky and you're only seeing his crowd work and this is terrible for comedy and he's ruining comedy clubs, and I bet if you watch his act, you'd hate his act, and punks like this don't deserve all the attention. Oh, he's just Dane Cook. He's going to be like this comedian chicken. He's going to kill himself. He's not going to make it. This is going to wash him out. all the negative vitriol you could possibly imagine from a bunch of insecure crybaby stand-up comics. It's the most piss poor thing I've ever seen. But it's all over the feed. I'm not making this, just so you don't think I'm making this up. These are actual working comics. People that have careers. Just in general, I think crowd work is lazy. Tell me the jokes you wrote. I bet that the crowd wasn't in your office when you wrote those jokes. Okay. He's just following the Steve Hofstetter blueprint. Okay. More about Hofstetter. Remember Hoff, the redheaded comedian with the glasses? Heckler gets destroyed by a comedian. That's Hofstetter. He's been doing it for 10 plus years. I do a great interview with Hofstetter if you want to listen to it, Eyes on the Ground. We talk about this exactly, so I won't belabor that point. But these are all from working comics. I think it's time we have a conversation about how crowd work videos on social media are ruining comedy. I have to do it in their dumb voice. Okay, maybe ruining isn't a bit harsh, but it's definitely making crowds think that's what a comedy show is now, that it's okay to just start yelling shit out and talk to the comic in the middle of their blah, 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 blah. I can't. That's... If you write an act that's worth listening to, people won't yell at you. They don't yell at the movies. They don't yell at the ballet. They don't yell at magic shows or operas. They should yell at you. Both of those, and they don't. You go to watch something for a reason. That same comic, I won't call him out by name. Later on in that thread, maybe even in the same post, makes the comment that his show the other night had X amount of people, and 2 minutes into the show, they were all yelling stuff, and they were drunk parties, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm just telling you that doesn't happen if you have shit worth saying. Unless you're taking terrible gigs, right? You just agreeing to do a bar gig, an Electric Cowboy on a Wednesday night during their shot specials. If you're doing that, you get what you agreed to do. But if you're just a comic in a comedy club and you're presenting a coherent act that's funny and worth listening to, people aren't just yelling stuff at you. And if they do, that is part of the occupational hazard. This is not new. I've been beating up hecklers and people yelling stuff out for 23 years. You weak sauce comics, mad that someone is posting them capable of doing something you're not capable of doing. I just want to tell my joke. Every comic I've seen complain about Matt Rife, everyone, bar none, is the hackiest son of a bitch I've ever seen. They're all mad because Matt Rife's not posting videos of him doing jokes that they're doing. There are comics in Houston who share some joke. A couple of them got the same joke, and they're so lazy and they won't write anything new that they won't even take that joke out of their act after knowing someone else is doing it because they know they wrote it. Well, of course you wrote it. It's lowest common denominator crap. Of course you wrote it. So did my niece. So did 20 other people. Your jokes are memes. And I'm not up here saying I'm splitting the atom, but I'm also not ripping Matt Rife apart for doing crowd work. Crowd work is a tool that a comic can use in a live environment, right? Let's look at what you might be trying to accomplish as a stand-up, okay? Most of these people bitching and moaning aren't writing shows. They're not working on hours. They're not working on tours. They don't have anything that's a coherent anything. You're grabbing 50 minutes of your best junk and you're cobbling it together in whatever order works best, and you're calling audibles as you're working the crowd and you're playing with them and you're figuring out here's my plan, but then when that goes off the rails, I'm just grabbing what works. And that's an effective, totally valid way to do stand-up. And if you're doing that laziness, just picking and choosing, don't get mad when an audience senses it, when they can look up at you and tell that you don't know what you're really doing, that you're just kind of lazily winging it, and you're expecting them to be perfect, prim, and proper audience members, just laughing and chuckling at all the brilliant B-level dad jokes you wrote. I get so worked up over this. Crowd work, whatever I got so happy. This the one comment I saw on that entire thread that made me happy. I mean, my good friend Billy D. Washington defended it properly, and he mentioned me. That's why I thought to duck over. But this one voice just jumps in and goes, "He's not ruining shit. Just go be funny. It's that simple. The artistic integrity circle jerk is what's ruining comedy. It ruins everything." That's an old comic who came up under my tutelage in Beaumont. And he's one of the funniest kids I ever saw in my life. Almost won Houston's funniest person as an outsider. Very qualified to have that opinion, and he's right. These insecure comics have this idea. Have I yelled about this before? How comedy is not a zero-sum game. It's not. There's not 3 sandwiches and 5 comics. There's unlimited sandwiches. Also unlimited comics, it seems, in this day and age. But all these people aren't threats to you. Matt Rife. Here's Matt Rife's biggest problem. Matt Rife has got to figure out how to go on tour and be $700 worth of funny in an hour. That's the part I don't envy. Because I'm funny. I'll make you appreciate your $30 ticket so much. I'm a good $30 ticket. I'd like to be a good $100 ticket. I might be one day, but I don't know that I'm capable of being a $700 hilarity right now. So when those tickets get run up, boy, that crowd work better connect, because they are not paying to listen to just the jokes. You have created a Don Rickles Gallagher situation. I hope it works out for that kid. Anytime a comic, I'm impressed. Matt Rife, if you go look him up, if you go to his YouTube page, the kid, he's doing better than I am. The kid, he's younger than me. The kid self-funded a comedy special. What? Why would I appreciate that? He self-produced it. He wrote it. I don't know who directed it. He put it on. He taped it. It's out for the whole world long before he was famous. This kid has been chopping stuff up. Every comic mad at him they're playing the same game. Putting the same stuff up on social media over and over and over, hoping one of those things clicks and catalyzes, and people see your back catalog, and then suddenly you're worth $700 a night. Every mad comic, every single one of them is trying to do the same thing this kid did, and they're bitching about it. All right, I'm over it. I'm done talking, you insecure people. Duh. I went down a rabbit hole earlier that started with me trying to remember when the first CGI thing I remember seeing happen. And I remember some of the 80s stuff, and then but the first one that wowed me was Michael Jackson's Black or White. That came out around the same time as Terminator 2. All of that sent me down a rabbit hole of soundtracks that I love. And we are probably going to disagree on a lot of stuff, but we shall see. Now, a lot of you are going to make arguments for certain movies, so I'm going to eliminate them right now. They're just, if you hear your name on the list, get up and leave. These are my favorite soundtracks. These are the movies and the music that moved me. So there's going to be a lot of stuff you don't agree with. But here we go. The ones that aren't on there that might be obvious choices: Midnight Cowboy, A Star Is Born, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That it almost made the list. It made the short list for the short list and then didn't get cleared. Above the Rim, Pulp Fiction, I know, a great one, arguably one of the best. Footloose, hands down, inarguably great. Bodyguard, Dirty Dancing, 8 Mile, Dazed and Confused. That was a tough one to leave off the list. A lot of classic rock there. The Breakfast Club, Space Jam, Goodfellas. My other very close to honorable mention was The Lion King. Not going to lie to you. In conjunction with Rhythm of the Pride Lands, more music inspired by the music picture, The Lion King. I might have had a little bit of a thing for those soundtracks. 3 that didn't make it before I get into the 5 that did. Top Gun All of these soundtracks they were formative for different reasons. I remember where I was when I discovered them, when I heard them. I'm going to have to rush through them because I wasted half an episode talking about a comic I've never met, just like the rest of the internet. So to the soundtracks. Top Gun, specifically during an era in the late 80s, early 90s. I remember the one song by Berlin, Take My Breath Away, was used in car audio competitions. And I never was into car audio, but a bunch of my friends installed it. So I heard it a lot, and it's ingrained in that era. And I don't know what else was on that soundtrack other than Danger Zone. But I do know that Danger Zone, I will spend a little bit of time on this one, was not originally going to be Kenny Loggins. They offered it to Bryan Adams, who, in a very Canadian sort of way, turned it down because he felt it glorified war and didn't want his work linked to it. What a mistake, Brian. Where you at now? Where you at now, Brian? Working at a Canadian Payless. Second, almost made it. Judgment Night from 1993. First, two other soundtracks did this. The Spawn soundtrack, the Blade 2 soundtrack, but none as successfully in my mind as Judgment Night. Jamming rock and rap together long before Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and Korn. Before all of that rap rock fusion, there was the Judgment Night soundtrack. Mudhoney with Sir Mix-a-Lot. Sonic Youth with Cypress Hill. Slayer with Ice-T. It's worth a listen. And then, of course, this one under the radar, the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack, the one that had DiCaprio in it. It had Claire Danes in it on the soundtrack with Garbage, Everclear. Radiohead had a song on there, but not the one that you remember from the film. And then the Cardigans' Love Fool. I remember the song 1 Inch Punch, Pretty Piece of Flesh. It's kind of like a weird 90s synth rap. It was terrible, but I remember playing it a lot. So these were my three that just didn't make the cut. These are nobody's top five but my own. I'll do them in chronological order. This is not... Actually, chronological order may be close to the right order. No, that's a lie. All right. The Labyrinth soundtrack, 1986. I am a Bowie fan, and this is as Bowie gets. Weird, eclectic. He's playing himself in half the videos. He only wrote 5 songs for the soundtrack. I remember Underground. I think that's the title theme. As the World Falls Down. Very dramatic Bowie. And Dance Magic Dance. Is that the one? Is that the one that has the Power of the Babe? Or is that a totally different song? The Power of the Babe. Do you remember the song? Power of Hoodoo. Hoodoo. You do? Do what? Wait, how's the song go? You remind me of the babe. What babe? The babe with the power. What power? The power of hoodoo. Power of voodoo. Hoodoo. You do. Do what? Remind me of the babe. That's the song. Ah! Yes, of course I remember it. Don't go that way. That'll take you straight to Jerry's castle. So good. The soundtrack though it sticks in my head, and I like. He wrote the song for the Fireys too, the Fire Clan. You remember the "Hey lady, give me back my head. That's my head, lady." He wrote whatever that song was, but he didn't perform it. All right, number 4. I'm gonna do these out of order. Number 4, I think, is the Crow soundtrack. Very dramatic of me, but this was 1994. I know where I was in my life. It had Rage Against the Machine. It had Stone Temple Pilots. It had The Cure. It had Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails covering Joy Division. I think the song was Dead Souls. Some wailin', caterwauling Jane Siberry song. It Can't Rain All the Time. I think I was going through a dramatic stretch of my life. I'm certain I had that CD in the Discman quite frequently. I was probably driving around depressed about something. Or mad. Probably more. I was never a depressed kid. I was an angry kid. So I was probably driving around. You can't rain all the time. So emo. All right. 3 more. We got time for 3 more? We got time for 3 more. Let's do it. Coming in third. You're gonna be on if you're off key with me by the time I get to the first one. We're just wrong people. We're not made for each other. Go about your way. I'll go about mine. We'll just start seeing other people we don't know. How's that sound? We'll be in lockstep by number 1. Number 3, Singles. Do you remember the movie, 1992? Who was in that movie? I don't even remember. I always want to say like Ethan Hawke or something like that. I can't remember. I guess I could look it up. It really doesn't matter. It's one of those movies from the 90s with the cast. You know the cast. You know what I'm talking about. I'll just look it up. It's not what's his name? Matt Dillon's in it. Kira Sedgwick's in it. Is that it? Bridget Fonda. Okay, maybe it's not the people I thought were in it. Doesn't matter. The songs are. Who all's on that? It's an introduction to grunge. It's how you find grunge. If you've never listened to grunge, if you're not familiar with grunge, maybe you're too young for grunge, go pick up the single soundtrack. It's got Mother Love Bone, literally the founding fathers. Andrew Wood. Come on. Mudhoney's on there. Soundgarden's on there. Pearl Jam might be on there twice. Alice in Chains, Screaming Trees, Chris Cornell solo, Smashing Pumpkins, Jimi Hendrix. That Pearl Jam song, Breathe, is on there. And it's one of the best Pearl Jam songs. This is back when Pearl Jam had only put out like one album. One, maybe. This was 92. 10 had this might even been before 10 came out in 91. So they were brand new. You got your hands on a new Pearl Jam song? Because all you had were the ones on 10, and you had Yellow Ledbetter and Footsteps and a couple of the B-sides. And then this came out. It's such a wonderful song. I forget the other song by them on here. That is vintage, early 90s. What a good movie. This might be a terrible movie. What a good soundtrack. All right, final 2. And I got to be honest, I struggled with this one. My number 1 choice is my number 1 choice. But my number 2 choice came so close because it is, in fact, almost perfect. But if you hearken back to 1995 and this stretch of time, I was working at Best Buy. I know exactly where I was. I put the security tag on this very specific album when it came out. And then I peeled the security tag off and probably stole it. I worked at a Best Buy. Literally in the security. So when this came out, and maybe it's because the movie was so great, but every song on here, for many, many different reasons. The soundtrack to the film Friday. Look it up. It's perfect. Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Cypress Hill, the Isley Brothers, Bootsy Collins, Rick James. 2 Live Crew doing Hoochie Mama. Remember that one? Also my good friend Scarface with the track on there, Friday Night. He does it with C.J. Mack. Old Brad Jordan, executive producer or associate producer on my comedy special. Anyway, every song on that album is arguably perfect. And I would highly recommend going to give it a listen. It is fun, beginning to end to end. You also get a version of, I heard it through the grapevine. Is that the one that has Zapp and Roger? Is it Zapp and Roger that do the song on there? Anyway, the sort of auto-tuned, the guys who did Computer Love, one of them on here. Fantastic soundtrack, which brings us to the only perfect soundtrack of them all. The only one that could ever, forever, ever in the history of ever reign supreme in the Royal Rumble of film soundtracks, and could have easily made the list for another soundtrack from the film Batman, but he did not. We go back to the year 1984. The singularly named Prince Rogers Nelson, as you know him, Prince. Of course, it's Purple Rain. What did you think it was going to be? He's the best musician that's ever walked the face of the planet. He's the best guitarist that's ever walked the face of the planet. So, of course, he's responsible for the best soundtrack on the face of the planet. This album is perfect. I said it. There's nothing perfect on this planet except for this album and maybe his performance at halftime. It opens with Let's Go Crazy. How can you possibly go wrong? It's followed by The Beautiful Ones. They always smash the picture. Always. You know the song. If you don't know the song, listen to the song. Oh, it's beautiful. It's right up there with It Always Snows in April. Darling Nikki is on this album. I'm not reading these in order. I'm just yelling titles. Darling Nikki, the sexiest song that's ever happened in the history of the world. I watched him do it live that New Year's Eve. Oh, on top of the piano. Take Me With You is on there. Computer Blue is on there. When Doves Cry is on there. Have you heard the guitar work in When Doves Cry? Are you even remotely aware of how perfect the finger move? I keep saying perfect, but it's Prince. Oh, I Would Die For You. I would die for you. Baby, I'm a Star. And of course, the most perfect rock and roll song that's ever been written. Ever. 8 minutes and 41 seconds of bliss. The title track off the soundtrack to Purple Rain closes it out. And if you have never in your entire life laid on your floor with your eyes closed and listened to that song, you're just missing out. Do it with somebody you like. Get a little stoned. Make it worth it. That's a perfect 8 minutes and 41 seconds if there ever was. And that soundtrack for however long it runs, it's the greatest thing to ever come out on June 25th, 1984. The movie doesn't hold up at all. I watched it on an airplane. It's terrible. It's misogynistic, moderately abusive. That's not like Minnetonka. That's hilarious. It's still going to make me laugh every single time. But watching somebody on an ascot slap somebody makes me giggle. Morris Day and the Time. The music in the movie is so much more than even the soundtrack. If there was ever a full-blown all the music from the movie on one album, it would be the only thing that could be better than this. But past that, do yourself a favor. If you got a better one, did I miss one? I'm sure I missed one. I didn't spend my whole life doing research. I just thought about the things that popped into my head. I'm sure yours isn't on the list. I'm sure you disagree with me. You're happy to leave the disdain and the disagreement in the comments, and I'm happy to have you. I'm out in Fort Worth this weekend. I've got shows the 16th and 17th, the flagship club in the Hyenas family. I'll be in Fort Worth. I go the next weekend to Colorado Springs, Looney's Comedy Corner out there, the 23rd and 24th. I come back July 2nd. I'm doing a small warm-up show at a kind of small thing here in Houston on the 2nd. July 8th, I go to Arcadia Live out in Kerrville. So if you're in Austin, that's the closest I'm going to be to you, Austin. Maybe you should come out and see the new show. And then 2 weeks to close out July in Canada. A couple other things coming up the 1st of August. Announcement soon. August 19th. Tickets on sale now, right now. SladeHam.com. Go to the website. Grab them while they're still cheap. We're going to sell this out. We're going to add a second show. I'm going to see you at the taping of my comedy special. Check out Matt Rife. Go look up his album. It's probably the #1 album on iTunes right now. And the only reason I'm telling you to do that is because I know right below it you should find the latest album, the first album, in fact, from my good friend Trey Tutson. If you're looking for comedy and someone you haven't discovered yet, look him up. His album is called Blissful. It's on. It's probably right under Matt Rife. It was the #2 album on all of iTunes the last couple of days. Very proud of the kid. Very happy to have you guys along. Very excited about my special. All things me. SladeHam.com or at SladeHam on social. I'll see you soon.